What is a T-junction? Why is it considered bad feng shui to live at the end of a T-junction? What are some of the negative side effects of living at the end of a T-junction? And if you are already experiencing these negative side effects, these negative repercussions, what are some solutions to turn that energy around? These are all things we're going to talk about today in this video. I have a big case study to share with you today that really illustrates this point. This home is in a neighborhood close by to me at the end of a T-junction, and it is a juicy story. So let's get into it. So first things first, what is a T-junction? Put in very simple terms, it's when the road looks like this. You've got two streets crossing that create a T. It doesn't matter if it's major or minor. I would say if you are living in the country and it's like you live in the middle of nowhere and there's very little traffic on your street and it's like these gravel roads or just very like passive roads, you are less affected by this formation. For most people who live in the suburbs, the traffic is pretty regular, the traffic is pretty frequent, and it's people, cars, roads, water that carries energy. What is this energy that I'm talking about? Well, when you're feng shuiing your space, most people go straight to what are the elements, the colors, the tchotchkes, like inside of my house. But feng shui is the study of how your environment affects you. First and foremost, what's going on in the outside landscape, the streets, the buildings, the mountains, the water. What are the landforms around this house? And is it creating a positive, harmonious flow of chi? When people are placing their objects, their colors, and balancing the elements, they're wanting their home to feel peaceful, positive, and harmonious. You do that by balance, by spatial arrangement, by creating a nice feeling flow. Well, the same is true for our exterior. Are the streets arranged to help guide energy to your house, to help guide positive, peaceful, harmonious energy and really encapsulate your house? Or is it like a T junction where imagine energy is a bucket of water? You pour that bucket of water down here at 45 miles an hour and it's going straight to your front door. That is too fast. It's called sha qi. It's too fast of energy going straight to your front door. Some other negative arrangements of where your house might be placed or where someone's house might be placed. And don't worry, we're going to talk about solutions if you're like, well, I can't move, I can't pick up my house, like this guy in the story that we're going to talk about. He is not moving. He said that. But if you are just buying a house, you're just on the market, avoid these placements and your life will be a lot easier. This is also not an ideal situation because if you pour a bucket of water down here at 45 miles an hour, it still goes straight to your door. And also, energy brings you prosperity, goodness, money, people, opportunities. And these streets are passing you right by. Nothing is hugging or wrapping the house. So then popular is cul-de-sacs. Another one that's very tricky. It depends which house you are in the cul-de-sac that will get the most auspicious chi. Cul-de-sacs really slow down energy. So it's the opposite of a T-junction where it's just like so fast, it's so wild. This one, by the time the lucky, auspicious opportunities, people, energy comes down here again, imagine pouring a bucket of water. It goes pretty slowly. So where you are in this in this cul-de-sac, you might be getting the leftover energy, you might be getting the top of the energy. It really depends. And then same, not ideal. Well, this is ideal. You want to be on the inside of the street and inside of the curve. Again, imagine water. It's kind of like hugging and wrapping around you. And this one is cutting and slicing into the house. So not just the T-junction. These are not ideal situations either, which I know can sound very tricky. Every time I'm going on a walk, I'm looking at houses and I'm like, wow, there's only so many limited options. Most people do, I guess, live just like there's a straight road in front of them. But if you want a nice corner lot, you have to be particular about the shape of the corner lot. So let's get into a real life example. This is in a neighborhood not too far away from me. It's a wild story. It's definitely an extreme case scenario, but maybe you can relate to it. You know, I don't know who's out there. I don't know what you're seeing and saying. So this is obviously a T junction. It's a little bit more macro and it's not like the most obvious, just one road and this, but not only do you have like traffic going each way here, this is a very busy road for any of these houses to be on. A lot of these people might be feeling some kind of strain, some kind of imbalance in their life. It's going to be a little different for everybody depending on what the flying stars are in their house. But this guy in particular, he not only has all of this craziness, he also has this road going straight to his front door. And you can see that he has had some experiences in the images that were shown at the beginning of the video. So this is the house. If you're standing at the corner looking at it, even the crosswalk, right? It's just like right there. The people, the cars, the energy, it's all directed straight to his front door. He did an interview. This is from a news source on YouTube. So he's given permission for people to talk about this. He has had a car drive into his house in 2012, 2021, and 2022. And I actually shouldn't laugh. This is terrible. It's one of the risks of living at the end of a T junction. Now, the government has said, and now he's got all these signs in his front yard. Part of the background is that, well, why doesn't he just move? The house is paid for. I guess place the government offered to buy it at market value. He's like, I already own this house. Can you please just put a guardrail? They've put speed bumps, they put some signs, they were the ones that put these rocks. We're going to talk about why these rocks aren't good for his house. So they're trying to remedy in certain situations, but energy is energy. In addition to it being placed at the end of a T junction, I also want to point out a few other things. First, a lot of people who are into feng shui and they're into this energy stuff, they're big in numerology. And people ask me, oh, my house is a 6, my house is a 3, my house is a 2. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. It has nothing to do with feng shui. A lot of spiritual people would see 444 in the address and think, oh, this is really lucky. No, like, obviously not. We prioritize the feng shui and the landforms around the house. Second, I did the math, and according to numerology, this house would be a 6. And according to numerology, a house number 6 is love, harmony, relationships, a place for them to thrive. I can tell you after watching some of these interviews, this guy does not seem happy or like he is thriving. He says he finds it cathartic to paint these pictures. So, and like get out his anger. And I don't blame him. I'd be frustrated too if I had cars flying through my window. Like, don't even, there's a lot less that's got me a lot more frustrated. So, I do not blame him for this. And he probably didn't know about feng shui, doesn't all have all these, but this is, again, I'm using this scenario to give you guys an example so that when you're going into these houses and your emotions are like, oh, I see 444. Oh, it's a 1 numerology. Check the feng shui. The feng shui trumps anything like that. So we're going to look at the floor plan. Well, just an aerial view. Obviously, this guy did not give me a floor plan. This is an aerial view from Google Maps. I did the flying stars for this house. Right at the front of this house is 5. 5 in feng shui, in flying star feng shui, is the most aggressive, most disruptive, most bad luck, if you will, energy in feng shui. We do not want to energize it, promote it. We want to avoid it all we can. Really, you don't want to buy a house that has a 5 at the front. I say that I live at a house. I inherited a home that has a 5 at the front, a 5 at the back. And that's technically not ideal, but I'm not at the end of a T junction. So there's never perfect feng shui. You sometimes have to like weigh the pros and cons. But if I saw this house and this guy was my client and he said, and I did the flying star, well, we wouldn't have even made it to the flying star, quite frankly, because I would have seen that his house was at the end of a T junction and I would have just said no. That it would have stopped there. I wouldn't have even needed any additional information. But if he was like, no, I really like it, really consider it, still I would have said no, but we would have run the flying stars. We would have seen a 5 is at the front. Now we have all this energy, all of this rushing energy fueling that 5, which again is disruption, bad luck, bad relationships, poor finances. It's aggressive. It can really like rile you up, especially if energy keeps feeding it. And case in point, right? The other thing with feng shui is that yes, you can feng shui this house. So we're going to talk about solutions and things to turn that energy around. But then there's also this whole factor of people. Like, what's the astrology happening? What's the feng shui? And also, what is your attitude? If I don't know this person, if he's already pretty quick to temper, not patient, aggressive, this house is just like fueling that in him. This would be a completely different story if someone was a little bit more, had a completely different personality, right? Maybe they would have, when the government offered to pay for the house, maybe that person would have been like, you know what? This is a chance for me to have a fresh start. Maybe I can politely negotiate something higher. Like, your personality mixed with your feng shui changes the outcome of feng shui. Just brings you opportunities, brings you people, brings you more money, brings you more love. But it's up to you if you turn it into more money, if you are a loving person, if you brought these healthy opportunities, if you take advantage of them. So going back to the solutions of for this house, being at the end of the road like this, it's a little tricky because I would say normally at the end of a T junction, paint your front door red because all that sharp energy is wood and fire burns wood. So I would say to burn all the wood coming straight rushing to your door. Black is water, and that's just fueling it even more. But we have a 5 at the front door, and if we add fire to the 5, that's just going to fuel the 5 even more. So black isn't terrible, but it's not working too great for him, so I would pick metal. When you have a 5 and you want to calm it and cure it, you want to put metal in that position. So for him, I would recommend any metal color, white, gray. Obviously, you're not going to paint it like a gold or a silver. So white or gray front door. Then other solutions. The reason the city gave him these boulders, it sounds like, and that's not ideal because 5 is an earth element. So adding more earth is just like making you even more stubborn, more grounded, more like a mountain, not going to budge on this argument. Really, they should just give him a guardrail and put it in his yard, but it's a whole thing. You can watch the video. But earth is just even more so going to make him more stubborn. He could paint these white and that would add some metal to it. If these aren't moving, I would add reflective, some kind of metal or reflective decor to the front. So any kind of like those, those garden like balls that have reflective color on them. They're like mirror like. Now you don't want to have like a wall of mirrors because that's going to confuse traffic more. It's going to like push and pull the energy even more and make it even more fast. So more just like decorative item. Wind chime. Wind chime, I would even go so far as to say like one over here to make it balanced and protect the house on both sides. Wind chime, 6 metal rods would be great to help calm the energy coming to the house. Also, the in for everybody else who's not in this extreme of a situation and is living more in a house like this, to recap, less extreme situation, red front door at the end of rushing wood chi coming to your front door. But again, if you don't know what your flying star is at the front of the door, then at your front door, like in his case, it's a 5. We definitely don't want a red door. So that recommendation goes out the window. If you do know that you don't have a 5 at your front door and that fire is a good element for the energy in your flying star chart at the front of your door, red is a good go-to. Also, in less extreme scenarios than that guy, you can add in some kind of fence to slow it down. You can add in some shrubbery, some plants, some bushes, some trees, some hedges. I imagine in his scenario, like they're coming so fast that he doesn't feel they're sturdy enough. Most people are even more set back than this guy. Most people are, I mean, he's set back. It looks further in the aerial view than it really is. He just might not think that trees or shrubs are sturdy enough. It would really help him to add an additional wall like that, but he doesn't have a feng shui consultant, so he doesn't know these things. This is the other view, the other side of his house. So again, like adding some of that, like another wall, a short decorative fence, but now you have these. And the thing is, like, once you get irritated, once you get angry, once you activate that 5, and then you added these massive boulders to it, it's going to be really hard for somebody to become less stubborn. Like, this is what happens when you have so much. I said I was going to mention, like, what are the negative side effects of this kind of energy coming at you. Sometimes the energy is so strong that you don't even see how you're in your own way. You don't even see how you've lost your own personality. And in this case, when you're activating a 5, cooling it down and like stepping outside of it and being like go on vacation, get out of the influence of your house and calm down and realize like, it's the house that's really making me frustrated. So in these, it's like kind of spiraled. Like I don't see how this will be solved if these boulders are here. But anyway, back to what can you do? Don't add these, especially if you have a 5. Add in like a fence here to slow it down, a vegetative fence. Personally, I don't like when it's like really tall trees. You'd want like a low shrub head. You don't want to completely block off all energy to your house. You don't want it to be like a screen, but a low hedge, a low fence, or even layering the two, adding a low row of nice, pretty floral shrubs red color to burn some of that wood, and then adding the fence will really build that barrier. And this guy, he should add I would do like 6 boulders and paint them white, and then 6 is metal, white is metal, and so you're working with what you got if you wanted to go the boulder route. So a T-junction is when a road crosses like a T in front of your house. We discussed that there's some other negative road formations, and even on those, you can take similar approaches with the adding a barrier of vegetation, maybe painting your door red. Knowing your flying star chart is very important too. Knowing what feng shui remedies to add into your space, into your yard. It's considered bad. The T junction and all of these other ones are considered bad feng shui because imagine energy is a bucket of water going at 65 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, really fast, sharp energy coming straight to your house. And we want that like harmonious flow, balanced energy surrounding us. That's the negative side effects, and what can you do about it? We talked about the wall, the vegetation, the paint colors for your doors. We've talked about how to slow it down and reverse it, and we've also talked about your energy, your perspective, having, like trying to bring in your higher self for a second and say like, "Huh, if I'm experiencing all of this negative stuff, could it be my feng shui? Could it be that there are solutions that I can repurpose and reposition things in my home, things in my yard to turn these situations, these obstacles, these experiences around?" And the answer is yes. In fact, here are 2 videos that you can use to attract more abundance and prosperity into your life.